Welcome to my Burning Crusade Hunter leveling guide, where I will cover my talent trees, useful tips and tricks, rotations, pets, macros, gear, and also a guide I follow from 1 to 70. Alright, so the first thing I would like to cover is my different talent trees. The moment you reach level 10, you can choose between BM, Marksman, and Survival. Survival is primarily going to be useful at level 70, but especially if you would like to PvP, as you will have more health, more survivability, and better CC, where Marksman will cause the Hunter to be dealing a lot more damage, the downside being that your Hunter pet will have a way harder time building up enough threat, therefore you'll constantly be getting aggro. In my opinion, Beast Mastery is the best choice. There's never any downtime, and whenever I'm low on health or mana, I can send in my pet, drink or eat food while it's taking care of the rest. Nonetheless, you can still level up as Survival or Marksman, which is why I will cover the different talent trees I prefer to use as all three specializations, starting with Beast Mastery. As Beast Mastery, I have three different builds I like to use. The one here is what I swap to with dual talent the moment I'm going to fight a more difficult target, such as an elite. My main talent tree looks a bit different, and the benefit here is that early on we will also improve our aspect, making us able to run around a bit quicker, at least until we start unlocking our mount at level 30. Yet another benefit is that you will start improving your own damage a lot earlier, as you won't be spending as many points into the Beast Mastery tree. Instead, you will swap those into Marksman. The moment you get into Outland, you could instead start using a talent build like this, primarily because it's also what your build will look like if you wish to play BM at level 70. And let's be honest, Beast Mastery is going to be the best DPS when compared to the two other specializations. Moving on to Marksman. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this isn't a great specialization for solo leveling. You're primarily focusing on increasing your own damage, which is why you will constantly be the one with aggro instead of your pet. However, the specialization shouldn't be underestimated for dungeon farming, where for example providing 2-shot aura, and when you got a decent tank, you shouldn't worry too much about pulling aggro. In the first build that I'm sharing here, we're not getting silencing shot at the bottom of the tree, and instead we're spending more points into Beast Mastery to also increase the damage done by our pet. But if you wish to get silencing shot and increase your own damage even further, you could instead be going for a talent tree like this. In my opinion, Survival is a no-go. You're not increasing your own damage or your pet. Yeah, I know you're getting a bit more survivability and better CC, but what will it matter when you're not going to die anyway? Instead, you're just reducing your leveling speed. Moving on to the next topic, rotations and things you gotta avoid doing at your pull. So you would never like to pull the target by using a Serpent Sting, Arcane Shot, or Concussive. The main reason is that you will be missing a lot of auto shots, and make sure never to apply a Serpent Sting on a target you will kill quickly, else you will end up wasting a lot of mana and not really benefit a lot from the damage over time. What I prefer to do instead is to always apply a Hunter's Mark, followed by an auto shot. Next, I start running away from the target and cast an Arcane Shot at the same time. And whenever my next auto shot is ready, I make sure to use this, and of course an Arcane Shot whenever the cooldown is off. Your rotation changes when you get to level 10. Now we gotta make sure we are applying a Hunter's Mark and also sending in our pet. But before you do your auto attack, you gotta ensure your pet has also hit the target to build up threat. The moment this has been done, you can also use an Arcane Shot or a Serpent Sting if it's a difficult target. But make sure not to burst right away, or you will definitely be getting aggro. The moment I begin to struggle with mana, I either drink and send in my pet, or another solution, applying Hunter's Mark and auto shots only. The moment I've reached level 18 or above, I start dealing with 2 targets instead of 1. I can use my multi-shot to do cleave damage, I've got my immolate trap, and I can easily kite around with concussive and wing clip. So in this case, I'm for example applying a Serpent Sting to the other target, I drag it into the immolate trap, and now I just kite it around as it's being slowed. Meanwhile, my pet can focus on other targets, and the other one is slowly dying due to all the damage over time. This is a great way to deal with multiple targets at the same time. The moment we reach level 62, we unlock a new ability, Steady Shot, which has no cooldown, and 1.5 seconds cast. Those of you with a quick range weapon will therefore just be able to do an auto attack followed by a steady shot and repeat this until the target is dead. Where those of you with a slower weapon will sometimes be able to use another ability in between your next auto shot. But the moment you reach level 66, you gotta make sure you're using a new ability, Kill Command. This becomes active after the hunter lands a critical attack. But to ensure you don't have to pay attention to the ability or to your crits, then I'm using a spammable macro that will automatically use my Kill Command in between my steady and auto shots. I will of course leave the macro in the description below the video. I also gotta highlight a one button macro where you will either call, revive or nopet. It all depends on what's currently needed. In this case I haven't summoned anything, so it tells me to call pet. Then I will be casting nopet if there's nothing else needed. The insane thing is that the moment it ends up dying, or if I'm summoning at that pet, it's automatically swapping into revive. So yeah, as I said, one button for everything. What I would also recommend you to use is mouse over macros, and no, you don't need to add in a rank. If you remove the rank, you will just always be using the highest possible. What's the main reason for why I like to use mouse overs? Well, instead of having to manually swap between targets and then using my auto attacks at the target I'm going to use an ability on, well, then I can stick to my main target, run, and at the same time just mouse over whoever I would like to use an ability on. In this case, a Concussive Shot on this target, Serpent Sting over there, and a Serpent Sting on the one I just used Concussive Shot on. Another example could be where I need to quickly apply a slow. In this case, I mouse over and I use Wing Clip, and all of a sudden these creatures are now slowed. I start using the macros the moment I've unlocked my Immolate Trap, so I can also deal with multiple targets at the same time. In this case, I'm for example sticking to my main target and I just apply a Wing Clip, Immolate Trap and Serpent Sting to the other one. And the moment I've killed my main target, the other one is almost dead. Next up, the 1 to 70 leveling guide or add-on that I'm following to be as efficient as possible. The one I'm using right here I will leave in the description below the video. It works for every single class and race in the game. It has been developed by the best speed levelers and it's easy to follow as there's an arrow, text and numbers on your map indicating in what order you need to do the specific things. There's a free version you can try out to see if you like the add-on or not, but also a full version that works all the way up to max level. It also comes with a nice additional feature, such as a dungeon leveling guide. And no, it's not like you need to be level 1 in order to follow the guide. You can log in and simply just choose your level. Moving on to the gear I like to use. Strength is only increasing your attack power, where agility is going to be attack power, crit, and armor. In other words, agility is going to be your primary stat. What I also like to do is to get items with spirit. The reason being that it's improving my mana regen. Whenever I'm just doing auto shots and not using any abilities, I will slowly regen mana. Items called of the Wolf is going to grant you agility and spirit. Definitely useful at lower levels until you start getting items with hit, more attack power, and of course also crit. But don't forget there will also be items not called of the Wolf, still granting you agility and spirit, but also other important stats, such as more stamina and intellect. Nonetheless, as a hunter, the most important thing to focus on is upgrading your weapon, as it's the primary resource for increasing your own damage. Getting a new weapon is way better than, for example, getting a new pair of braces. And talking about weapons, you shouldn't just buy everything possible. Try to stick to the same weapon type, else you might end up spending a lot of time leveling up your weapon skills when you're swapping between different weapons. Try to also avoid crossbows, as there isn't too many upgrades at lower levels. Next, I would like to share some useful tips and tricks. Your freezing trap lasts for 1 minute and only has a 30 seconds cooldown. Even though it only has a 30 seconds cooldown, then you can only activate one trap at a time. However, there's a way to also CC 2 targets. You place your freezing trap, wait for the cooldown to be gone, and then you drag one of these enemies into the trap. The moment this has been done, you can place yet another one, and now we have also successfully trapped 2 targets at the same time. The next trick allows you to drag an enemy away from a larger group. To pull this off successfully, you gotta hit all the enemies at the exact same time, for example with a volley. Now they're no longer linked together, and all you gotta do is to continue hitting the enemy you would like to kill, for example with Serpent Sting or Arcane Shot. The moment you have got far away, the other enemies will start to evade as long as you're not hitting them, and this is a clever method to just kill one specific target. What will usually happen if you're not using volley is that the moment I've hit my main target, all nearby creatures will be chain pulled. In fact, they're also being linked together, so the moment I decide to hit my main target, all the remaining enemies will also be kept in combat and not evade. This is a big problem, as most of them will usually catch up to you. During early levels, it's important you're always moving in between your auto shots, else the enemy will quickly get close to you and you're doing way less damage in melee. It can of course be a bit difficult to know the perfect time for you to stand still to shoot. Luckily, there is an add-on indicating this for you called Weapon Swing Timer. Weapon Swing Timer adds a bar that lets you know when you can do your next auto shot. The moment the bar is white or grey, it's not a possibility. So as of right now, it is going to be possible. Some of you might also have noticed the red bar. What it does is to indicate when my next auto shot is successfully being done. The moment I move, and if the bar is not all the way to the left or to the right, well, then I also won't successfully be casting my auto shot. So it's important you're standing still for long enough. Last but not least, we have got such an important topic, pets. It will of course matter what pets you're using on your journey to max level, because you shouldn't just be using one beast all the way up to 70. It's going to be important that you're taming different ones, because pets will have different abilities and higher ranks of those abilities. So once in a while you gotta head to the stable master, drag in your pet, and head to the open world to tame a new one to get a higher rank of that spell. Yes, it will matter if you wish to increase your own leveling speed. I know it might be difficult to figure out what pets you gotta tame to get a higher rank or a new spell, but I've left a link to a webpage where you can browse through all the different categories and also find the ability you would like to improve by getting a higher rank. Hopefully they also end up updating the add-on Tamed for the Burning Crusade Classic. If so, then it's going to be so much easier. You can just look for the specific rank and show where you can find that creature on your map. So which pets do I prefer to use? An owl is doing decent damage and also got the ability Dive. Not only can I use Dive to quickly stack the enemies together, but I can also use it to ensure my pet is doing a couple of auto attacks before I'll be in range to do my auto shot. I used to prefer getting a tiger due to its quick attack speed and access to different abilities dealing a high amount of damage. But in the Burning Crusade, Ravagers is being introduced, and these are doing a bit more damage compared to cats and tigers. Exactly why it might also be a good decision to head to this location on a Sure Mist Isle, as you can tame a low level Ravager. The moment you reach level 63, you gotta head to this location and tame a new Ravager. The reason being that these also unlock score rank 9, which is the highest possible rank to unlock. Another thing you gotta do is to head to Terracore Forest and tame a spider. This can also be done at level 63. The moment you have successfully tamed a spider, you unlock Bite, rank 9. And then you could head back to the Stable Master, get your old Ravager, and learn the new ranks. I hope you enjoyed my Burning Crusade Hunter leveling guide. On my channel, you will also find my dungeon leveling guide, useful tips and tricks, gold making, yeah, the list goes on. And soon I will publish a lot more that you definitely don't want to miss, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing day. Peace.